Hello, this is Dean Radin, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
This is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Debra Martin, and this is Your Superior Self.
Debra, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me today. I'm trying to remember. I came across your Instagram, I think, and saw some pictures and read your profile, and I was like, yeah, I got to get Miss Martin on the show. She is fantastic. A healing psychic medium, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Proof of Miracles is your book. Profound true stories of hope and healing. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I mean, you've had 3 near-death experiences, I think, and healing in itself is a miracle, and you're doing this every day with your clients. So I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about how it started for you, right? Like, I mean, you've had 3 near. Is the mediumship, did that start initially with the first near death?
Well, the first accident, and it was 1997. That kind of shifted me into divine intervention came to save me. And what is divine intervention? What is the afterlife? What is this? What just happened? Right. And so that opened me up to this whole new world. Right. And then the second car accident, I actually had an out-of-body experience. And having an out-of-body experience, now I went somewhere, but I'm watching the accident occur, and I'm hearing this great being behind me say, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "No, but I'm not going to survive that." And before I knew it, I was in the back seat of my 4-door Honda that was now a 2-door Honda with a mouthful of glass. The driver's seat had broken. I was back there, and there were police officers at pursuit at my door. And there was another man that was standing there, and he was really shook up. And this is what got me, because he said, "Sir, are you okay?" And he said, "No, I'm really not okay. I should have killed her. But at a split moment, something took my steering wheel and put me in the other lane." At that moment, I remembered seeing that. Like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have survived. So now that went into, what did I hear? How did I hear it? What just happened? And it opened my mediumship up. Shortly after that, I went and got tested with Dr. Gary Schwartz at the Windbridge. It was the Veritas Center then, but now it's the Windbridge Center. So I'm a lab certified medium. And the third one was, I was sick and dying, and Mayo Clinic couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was down to 90 pounds. And I was basically saying, "God, just take me. I have no quality of life. I have no dignity. I've lost control of all my bowels. I can't leave my room. I'm in a fetus position. Just let me go." And I can remember the day that I took a deep breath. Well, before the deep breath, I saw spiritual surgeons in my room, and having the mediumship ability, that didn't scare me. So I was just like, "Okay, what are you here for?" And they started working on my body, and it was really, really painful. And then I decided I just got to continue to go through this, but how am I going to go through this with this being so painful? So I'm going to remove my mind from my body, right? So I took a deep breath, but as I took a deep breath, I left my body. And now I'm floating up, and I'm like, wow, this feels kind of good. I'm not in any pain, but I don't know where I'm going. And I came to a place that was just all clouds, all white. And I can remember looking around going, all right, now what? I'm the only one here, right? And I saw this bright light start coming towards me. And as the light started coming towards me, I saw these arms kind of reach out. And then the next minute, I was witnessing my body being held by the divine. So my soul was watching what was happening to my body. At the time, I didn't know that. I was just going through it. But I followed, and he she, the divine, put me on this beam of light. And as I was laying on this beam of light, now I'm standing here in the presence of the Absolute One. And he said to follow. So I go into this cave and I said, why do we have to go in there? He's like, well, because it's so that no one else in the universe can hear this. I'm like, okay. So I go into this space and I'm not scared. I feel like completely full of love. I'll stay here, right? Well, then there's a table, and on this table, there's my lifespan contract. It's like a scroll. And as I look at this lifespan contract, I didn't look through everything. I just looked at the bottom. And it said that if I sign this, that I could go back and everything would be reversed. And I was questioning, you mean my health too, right? Because I don't want to go back all sick. And so what transpired then is I signed and I was told, remember this date, 1/21/12, all numbers are reversible and so is this. So I was on borrowed time. I got a second chance. I came back and I can remember coming back into my body. But before I came back, I argued if I could just see my parents on the other side. Can I just see some loved ones? And I was told no, because if I did, I probably wouldn't want to come back. So as I was coming back, I can remember just kind of still feeling at peace, floating downward. But when I came into the body, it was like I was held underwater, and then you come up and you go, oh, like that. And it just felt like I was coming in. And so it took a while for me to grasp all what happened. I took lots of notes, what just happened to me. And standing in the truth of knowing, okay, I will be healed. It took some time. I had to have that trust. And I did fully recover, and I never found out what was wrong. And I asked Spirit that question, why did I never find out? And so to anybody that's listening that doesn't have a diagnosis and that is so worried, like, I just want this diagnosis, what's wrong with me? Sometimes it's good not to have the diagnosis because we own it. And I would have owned it and said, I have this. I've always had this. It's part of me. I can never say that now. So I call that a blessing.
Well,
so then I started doing healings, and I was seeing a difference and seeing miracles coming and knowing that I received the gift of healing from that NDE.
What was the contract, or what was the signing?
The signing was like taking an oath. I was taking an oath that if I go back, I was going to have a new mission and a new duty. And it said there was like 4 words. It was prosperity, health, voice, and this was going to be my mission. And I thought, well, voice meant mediumship. That's easy. Yeah. Health, I questioned. I wanted to say healthy. So I knew that, okay, I can do this, but I had to stand in my truth. And there were lessons along the way that I wish were written, because I may have thought differently. I mean, I had to lose everything that was stable in my life to show that I was really going to stand in my oath. My former husband didn't want anything to do with this. And we had no issues with each other at all, but this became the issue. And
But
so
the healing work.
So I had to walk and start from scratch, and not knowing, how you're going to make income, how you I wasn't known as a healer. I didn't have this as a business. What am I going to do? But I had to trust that this was my mission, that I would always have what I need when I need it.
How did the children fare, like when they were younger, right? Was this when they were younger when this went down?
I had 3 older children that were out of the house, and I had 1 younger child that was in 3rd grade. And I can remember reading her papers from school, like, will mommy come out of the bedroom today? Will mommy feel better today? So she was not really understanding what was going on. When we told the kids that we were going to be divorcing, my 3 older kids were like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do this? And, life is good. And everything's going for you and everything's stable. And they just thought, like, if you can't survive, how could we survive a marriage? So it was a little hard. And what I really love about my kids is they didn't take sides. They stay neutral. And so he doesn't want to believe. Do they want to dabble in what I want to do? They'll talk to me about it, but they don't try to say like one of us is right and one of us is wrong.
Mm. Mm. How did you have the courage to keep going towards this, right? Like, because you signed it, because it was an oath, like you just knew that this was going to be taken care of by the universe?
Yeah, I trusted 100%. It was like that connection, that NDE, being on that side, hit the core of who I am. Like it was so profound. And there was so much love. Like you can't forget this. And by signing it, I knew, like, okay, would that mean that I would die if I don't do this work? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I just knew that I took an oath and I was going to walk through it. And humanly, that was not easy. Humanly, there were times where, I was on the floor saying, really, take me now again, because I don't know if I can live in this life because it's so hard. So I'm not saying like it was all like perfect and roses here. It was things I had to go through that now I can help other people get through as well.
Mm. When you were with Gary Schwartz
Mm-hmm.
and helping him with these studies, like what were your findings?
Gary Schwartz would call me the Michael Jordan of mediumship. So being tested was one thing that gave me the strength to know that my mediumship had credentials, right? That it was real. Because when you start receiving information, and I can remember at age 4 seeing spirit, and I pushed it aside. I didn't want to see it. It scared me. And now it came back up again. And is it real? And how can I help people if I don't know if it's real? So Dr. Julie Beischel and Dr. Gary Schwartz came up with a quadruple blind experiment. And you can read that on the windbridge.org site, the actual study, and you can't debunk it. And so when you go through these steps and you're seeing the results, then you know, okay, this is real. We have a connection here.
Mm. Were you in his book? What book is that he I think I have his book that he wrote.
The Afterlife Codes?
Yeah. Was that
I
you?
wasn't in that one. I had met him after that. Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating. In fact, Spirit actually gave me that book. I was helping a client and it fell off his shelf. I got the book, read the book, and in the back of that book, it says to read a book, The Afterlife Codes by Susie Smith.
Mm.
And I read that book and learned that those two knew each other. And so that's how I got a hold of Gary, because I was like, I have a message for Susie Smith. And this is fascinating because when Dr. Julie Beischel came to meet me, she said, well, Susie Smith was the founder of our lab. She's since passed, but she told us that mediums would come to the lab saying they have a message for Susie Smith.
Mm.
And so it was like, okay, here we are.
It's so crazy how the universe works, right? Like when it has a plan for us, or we have a plan for ourselves, and how everything just falls together. Like, and you can't even plan this. Like you couldn't plan this if you tried. It just kind of seems to fall in place, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to explain to people because they're like, really, that happened? But when you start seeing the miracles that are coming from it, you can't deny it.
Mhm.
It's just every time I go into a session, I remove my humanist aside and become the instrument. So the words that come through are not mine. So in this one case for a healing, when I say the words are not mine, I will take, okay, let me start from the beginning. When I do a session, I never ever have the person in person. So could be across the world, right? You're not on video, you're not on anything. I just have a picture of you. Okay, so you're resting in your space while the session's taking place. Some people will feel the same things I'm feeling. Some people will see the same surgeons that come into the room that I'm seeing. Some people will feel nothing at all. There's no right or wrong. For this instant, this woman, I had her picture, and I knew I had to take her to another space. So I was going to take her on a spiritual journey. We became to a space, and the divine light came towards her and handed her a baby girl. And as she held the baby girl, the words came through, I do not judge you, so do not judge yourself. And I had felt that she lost her child or maybe gave up her child, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole thing, this whole conversation about this child and what she went through, healed her, because what happened is after she listened to the recording, she emailed me and said, my husband and I haven't shared this with anyone, but when I found out I was pregnant, I found out I had cancer, and we had to make the choice. If I kept the child, I would die. And it was the hardest choice we ever made, but we were afraid that if we told family members, they would judge us. So the judgment really had a lot to play. And so she always felt like it was a baby girl as well, but it healed her emotionally. So when I say the words are never mine, and I'm seeing these visions and they're coming too, you're just in this blissful awness. It's remarkable.
Are all your sessions, do you do any one-on-one sessions like over Zoom like this?
No.
So everything that you do is via picture. Is that for the healing, or is that just for everything that you do?
That's for the healings. For a reading session, like a mediumship, it's over the phone.
Okay. It's interesting. Wow. To be able to find out information like that, how do you deal with it as a person? Like, to bring in that energy and find out some of the most traumatic experiences that people go through, and then share that with them. Like, how do you deal with that?
Sometimes it's really, really hard. I can remember a session I did for a child that was in the emergency room. I knew nothing about the child, but the things that came through were everything about the child, to the time that she would leave the hospital, the date, what was wrong, how she would be healed, and that the physical doctors here could not heal it. It had to be through the spiritual surgeons and God. And when you get that kind of information, and now you're going to send it to a mom that's hurting, that her 20-month-old child is in a hospital, you pause, right? Your humanness pause, like, oh, good God. But you have to, if I didn't trust what was coming through, I could do the work that I'm doing. Like, I totally removed my humanness aside and just let it all come out. I wouldn't know any of this stuff. And so I did send it to her, and everything came out exactly the way it was told.
Well, how did you develop that trust, right? Like, how did you, I don't know, maybe when you first started doing this, like, you were getting clear enough signals that it couldn't have been you, but like, how did you develop that trust within that gift?
I think first you have your mediumship, right? So the mediumship is telling me, okay, I trust that spirit exists. I know that there's an afterlife. I know for a fact. I mean, I'm taking on personalities. That now, when I had my NDE, where I was told to come back and be the voice, I didn't know that it meant the voice of spirit speaking through me, right? And so what's nice about this is I can remove myself and the outcome, knowing that I don't know any of this information, and it's really not up to me. It's up to God, the absolute one, for the outcome. Now, that doesn't say that doesn't come with the humanness of really wanting that person to survive. Like, oh my gosh, my heart's there. You get attached after you start emailing or talking to these people. But I can remember one person, I just thought for sure he was going to be healed. And I was like, why? Why did this person die? And I heard, well, because it's not you, it's not your choice. And so I really had to step back and say, yeah, that's right. This isn't me. It was kind of a wake-up call.
Tell me about a day in a life and Debra Martin's weekly schedule. Like, what is a daily schedule look like for you?
Okay, so the minute I wake up, I basically give gratitude for this day, gratitude that I have this day. And I just feel connected immediately, saying, let me be the best that I can to serve others. The best image of my higher self, let it shine. And then I like to work out, either yoga or with a little bit of weights, just to kind of get myself balanced in my head in the right space. And then I'll usually take a walk. I have a dog that I'll take a walk, maybe for a mile. And then I come back, I'll eat something. And after I eat, I'll go to my office, answer a few emails that have told me about their healings. And then I sit in prayer with that picture before I start that healing. So if it's a healing that I know I'm going to do that day, that picture goes in the moment I wake up, it goes into the healing room, and I put on different music to raise the vibration. As I'm preparing my body, I'm asking spirit to prepare the room, so that when I walk into that room later, I'm now wearing all white. I'm ready. I start my prayers. And when I pray for them, I'm not saying, please heal this person. I'm taking the picture, facing it to this picture that I have of Jesus, where I just feel the presence of the one coming through. And I just hold it and I state their name and say, thank you for the healing that you're doing today. I'm giving gratitude for what's going to take place, not for what I want, but what's needed. And it's not always what we want. Like, one person had cancer and she healed of something else versus the cancer. And we can go into that. So after the healing's done, usually I'm pretty tired. It can be draining. And if it's a really hard session, like a lot of cancer, I might have to take a nap for a while and just reboot. Drink lots of water, go on with my day. Try to get outside, fresh air is the best. And then get ready for the next day. But I will only do one session a day, because I believe that that's my client's day, whether it's a reading or a healing.
What do you see, like, when you go into the healing room and you start praying? Do you leave your body? Do you hear source? Maybe you said that, but like, what does that look like, the healing process, and how long does it take?
Okay, the healing process takes about an hour, but I'll be preparing way before that. Like, the prayer usually takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then I get onto a healing table. I place the picture on my abdomen. I have my earbuds in to record. And I just take a deep breath and just let things go. So what happens is, if I feel the divine enter the room, I'll immediately start crying. It's this love that's like, whew, I can feel it. If I see the energy in the room, sometimes it's going left to right. You can feel the flow. Sometimes I'll start moving to that flow before I even get onto the table. Sometimes I can see it, like with my naked eye. Sometimes I can hear it. Okay, so then as I'm healing, I might see spiritual surgeons come into room. I might feel anesthesia go into the arm. And so I'll taste it going through my body. My body experiences everything. So if that person has like stomach cancer, I'm going to feel that stomach cancer. I'm going to be in pain. They're going to hear me in pain. I have to go through the pain to feel it, to not deny it, and then release it. And so I might be asking them to repeat words after me, right, when they're going to listen to their MP4, and I'll be given those words. Then as the body is being healed, a loved one might come into the room. People have said they saw spiritual surgeons, wearing their masks. They can describe them. People have seen their loved ones come into the room where they're sitting and holding their hand. I've taken them on spiritual journeys for people that have lost their loved one and want to have a connection. They've felt their embrace. They smelled them. They heard them. And what's so fascinating is they say that they hear the words that their loved one tells them. And then I'm telling those words right after they heard them. I'm going, oh, and your loved one just said this.
Mm.
And I validate what they just heard. So they're hearing on their end exactly what I heard on my end. It's fascinating. And so then I'm always going on that spiritual journey with them. I'm taking them up. When I did a session on mental illness, I knew that girl would not want to come back if she went too high. She went to a space. So I'm like, I got to anchor her really, really strong. And so you just kind of know what you don't know, but then you do know as things are going through, you just kind of go through the process. So after the spiritual journey, we come back, we feel what's going on with the body finishing up, then we'll close. And then after the session, I send the MP4 and I usually sit in gratitude afterwards, because sometimes I'm weeping. Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe just what took place. Is this, I'm just in awe each and every time.
What's been the most impactful healing that you've done? Like that really, really solidified, your belief in this work?
It was in the beginning, before I decided to walk from my husband. I was working at a church. It was called the Logo Center. At that time, I had a colleague with me, and the Logo Center had a Faraday cage. Do you know what a Faraday cage is?
Mm-mm.
It's a copper-lined cage where nothing from the universe can get inside. So they would have it so people could go in and pray and feel their loved ones and know that they would have no interruptions. So we put a healing table in there and did our healings in there. And this gentleman, he was in his 70s. He was a doctor, professor, and I didn't know what was wrong with him, right? So I'm never told what's wrong. That's the one thing. Some people want to tell me, but normally I don't know anything of what they're dealing with. I just go into the session not knowing. So he's on the table, and I can feel that he has cancer of the brain and the spine. It was the most intense session pain-wise, because it was one of my earlier ones where my body is learning this. I can remember 6 hours afterwards, I was down. 1 week later, we learned that he had Hodgkin's lymphoma of the brain and the spine, and it was all gone. At Banner Anderson Hospital, the doctors couldn't find anything. They ran another spinal tap, another, brain scan, nothing. And that was seriously what I was crying. I was so excited. I was excited for the family. I remember meeting him and him saying, why me? I'm 70. I'm like, why not you? Why not you? And he's still hiking to this day. But that was so profound, and was like, yep, this is the beginning. And this is why I'm here.
Do doctors ask to meet you? Like, do they say, how did you do this? Like, how did you heal yourself? Like, do they ask to come see?
They ask why. And so I think he told his daughter, you tell them. And it's still the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no, they don't. Now I was asked by the oldest priest in the world. He read my books. He's 103. He lives in Seattle. He flew me up and he wanted to meet me. And what was so cool about this is here's a priest that did 77 years of priesthood. And here's me that's learned my spirituality through NDEs. And we come together and he's like, we both meet on the same level. After all these years, here we are. And he said to me, he goes, I've never felt as close to God as I do with you.
Wow.
And just, he said things to me that he said that there's so much judgment in the church, right? And he asked me, and this is what, it kind of took my breath away, but it also makes me know that if he sees this, other people see this, because how do I want to say, I'm just humble. Like, I don't want to say, look at me, right? But this was like, he said, he asked for confession through me to ask me what God would tell him.
Hmm.
And it was the most profound thing I've ever done with a person one-on-one who has this high level of spirituality in his church. But he believes in one world, one love. But what a remarkable man.
Sure. What does the divine say about who we are truly at the core of our being, like in relation to the divine itself?
Infinite love and light.
Hmm. That we're one with that?
Mm-hmm. We're born with that.
Did
So
you
we
ever
can tap
struggle with
into
that?
it at any time. Did I ever struggle with being an infinite light?
Well, like I know people, and I do this too. I fall into that human nature side of the house, and like, what do you know? It says, what are you talking about? Like, how can you be even close to the love and light? Like, you're human, original sin.
Well, I think we all are human. We make these choices, and the choices that we make bring lessons into our lives. We're not all going to be perfect. We just can't. Like I'm not. I would say that I'm not perfect at all. But when you start to say that we are infinite light and love, then to me, I try to do everything out of love. That's kind of my way of saying, well, if I do everything out of love, then I'll have no regrets, right? If I can walk that walk and come from that place of love, then I know that I won't say the wrong things to somebody. I won't walk away going, oh, I shouldn't have said that or shouldn't have did that. So you have to be conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
And remind yourself. But there's times, I mean, come on, I have a family, I've got kids, and we can all get like feisty with one another and kind of get each other's goat. So yeah, that part of me comes out too.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. I have 3 kids. They're 12, 10, and gonna be 4 here soon. And it's like there are moments where it's like you fall out of that consciousness, and you're just like yell at the top of your lungs, stop fighting, and it's like you kind of have these moments, but it's like those moments where you just, you realize your humanness, right? Like that we are spiritual beings having this human experience, and that's just a part of the drama. That's a part of the experience.
And like, okay, so here's something I can tell you. I developed cancer. All right. So as a healer, what? Me? Why? What do I have to learn? I've got compassion. What do I have to learn here? What do you want me to learn from this? Am I going to die? Do I tell people that I had cancer? I'm a healer. Will they look bad at me? Like, you can't heal yourself. How can you heal others? So, that's all that human is coming in, right? So when I let that go, I had to say, well, what should I do? Do I just heal myself? I went to the doctors. I knew I was stage 4. So I felt like I had to use every tool in the toolbox. And I wrote a book called Doctor's Faith and Courage, and how to put all 3 of those together. And it really helps people. And what happened is I learned that now when I'm healing somebody with cancer, I really walk the walk. I understand. I really can hold their hand, where before I was just looking in.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, got it. I understand. I got the lesson. But at the time, I didn't understand. So when I was going through it, I learned that with cancer, people always say, fight that cancer. You can fight it, right? Well, fighting causes resistance. You're going to resist it. So if your child was sick, would you say, go fight it, get to bed, whatever? Or would you embrace your child with love and say, you're going to be okay. I love you. So embrace the cancer with love. Ask it why it's here. What is it? What do you want to, what should you learn from it? So that you can say goodbye to it, because you're healing your body as you hug and love it. And it really made a difference.
Mm. How do we develop the cancer, right? Like, what does the divine say? Like, when is it to learn a lesson? Is it because of our lifestyles? Is it genetics? Is it the food we eat? Like, what is it?
I think it's all and above. I think everybody is different. I mean, I've seen people have cancer because of um, traumatic things, of feeling unworthiness, abuse, things come, they never dealt with it, had to come out. I've seen cancer because it was genetic. I've seen cancer maybe because of the poor health habits that somebody had. So should we label why we had it, or should we just look at it and say, what can I learn from you and how can I heal you? Because at that point, we really can't change anything, except for maybe the abuse that we took on. Maybe we're supposed to recognize that it really wasn't our fault, and that, we can let that part go and love ourselves.
Yeah, well, we're never taught that. It's like you walk into a doctor's office and the first thing you do is insurance forms, and you start labeling things like, what's your history, what's your family's history, what's your diet, what's this and that. And it's never I've never heard a doctor say you need to love your cancer.
Exactly. And I had great doctors. In fact, they let me put their names in the book and whatnot in the cancer book, because they said, you really walked through this with grace. But I really felt that they were my team. And I think it's important to find people that work with you, that you feel close to, because there were a couple of doctors that had to replace them at times. And I'm like, if I had that doctor, I don't know if I would have survived this. So it's okay that if you don't like the doctor, you have to change it. Nothing says you have to. But the other thing I learned too, so doctors are just learning too, like we're learning, right? And so I was told I had cancer and that I needed to get a hemorrhoid taken out. I woke up and I heard spirit tell me, get it out now. And I argued with the rectal doctor, take it out. She didn't want to take it. She's like, no, I'm not going to take it. I'm like, I'm telling you, take it out of my body. And she's like, no. And then when it came back cancerous, she felt horrible. So the other thing I say is be your own advocate. You have to. These doctors are busy with all these other patients. They need to listen to the patient. The patient knows their body better than anybody.
Seems like you know your body really well compared to that doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you tell her that, hey, look, I know what I'm doing here?
Well, I did. Because I was arguing with her, I did say intuitively, I know my body and I know that this is not good. And she was really shocked. She was shaken afterwards, because she's like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even going to take this out.
She's probably calling you for advice now, as far as patients. Like, I mean, take this out of me. It's cancerous. No, you don't know what you're talking about, Deborah. No, it's not cancerous. And then you go ahead and you tell her that, and then she pulls it out, and sure enough, it's cancerous. I mean, to be a doctor with all of that experience, all of that education, and then have somebody intuitively tell you, you missed something, it can be humbling, right?
I don't know if it was. I don't know. Because she wasn't really telling me the facts of what was lying ahead for me. She was kind of like making it all really simple. Oh, it's going to be fine. But you got to go see an oncologist today. You got to see a radiologist today. This is a must. You're going from my office there, but it'll be okay. It was not okay. I went through a lot. And I ended up switching to another rectal doctor. And when she heard my story, she had her what do you want to say, her peers in the office come listen, say, I want everybody to know here you listen to the patient.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Mm. What would you suggest to people that are listening right now that that are experiencing the things that you experienced, but don't trust that voice yet, or trust that intuition that you had?
So there's a lot of times when we have that gut intuition, I need to go do this, or that's, that when I say I need to, that's my ego saying it. But when you hear like, you should do this, you should go take a walk, you should go meditate, that's spirit guiding you, the you. When you hear a thought come to you or you see a sign, don't just push it away and say, I don't know if that was real. Instead, ask spirit to do it 3 more times and then don't deny it. Like, put them to the test.
What are some signs that have come up for you, right? Like I have signs like I see numbers and my audience are like, they're probably tired of hearing it. Like I'll see 999 or I'll see 44, a lot of different symbols that pop up for me. Is it the actual numbers have meanings, or is it just universe throwing me symbols saying I'm trying to get your attention, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So 4 4s are one of my favorite numbers too. 9 9, I always, when I see 9 9, it's the universe telling me that abundance is coming your way. So abundance could mean work wise, financial wise, abundance has a lot of different meanings to it. So that, yes, it could also be that they're just tapping you on the shoulder to say, hello, we're here. Notice that number. So you can kind of look numbers up too if you want. You can Google them. What's the spiritual meaning of this? And that'll come up. But really just trust that it's spirit sending it to you. And there's all kinds of signs. Flickering of lights. I don't know if you've ever had that. I've actually had it where if the light is flickering, now I'm going to talk a yes or no. So I'm going to say, okay, 1 flick for yes, 2 for no. And they've done it. And it's like, oh, this is so fun. Yeah. So kind of play with them back, and like I say, like, okay, everybody says a penny is a sign, big whoop, I got a penny. Well, how many of us really carry cash anymore in coins? So define a penny is kind of rare, but put them to the test and say, okay, that's just 1 penny. Give me 2 more today and watch.
How do we build our ability to be a medium or connect with the universe? Like, how do we build that muscle?
It's kind of like having a relationship. You build that relationship, right? It's spending time in just being, quietness, connecting, meditating, whatever you feel good. Some people meditate while they're walking. Like, I'll go outside and walk and I'll feel spirit with me more when I'm walking, just because I'm not thinking about anything else, wherever that space works for you. But it's just having that relationship saying, you know what, I'm here. I want to hear you. I want to feel you. I want to smell you. Like, open your senses. And then when something happens, trust it. And once you start that trust, the doors just keep opening wider and wider. It's just kind of like walking, riding a bike, right? You could forget it for 10 years, get back on, it's right there.
Do you go places out in the real world? Like, you were just in Baltimore. Do you like feel energies when you're traveling to different places?
Yeah, I do. Like when I went to Paris, was not good. I
Really?
was so excited to be in Paris. I was so excited. All of a sudden, I see like spirit looking out of the windows. I'm like, oh, I don't think they like me here. Why? Well, so I did an event in Paris and I had this woman show up. Trey, it was so scary. I had my assistant with me, and my assistant starts kind of like rolling her eyes kind of not out of there. I'm like, what is wrong with her? She was putting her in a trance.
What?
And yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? And afterwards, I'm like, Kara, what happened? She's like, I don't know. I felt like I was drugged. I'm like, I know you look drugged. So later, as we were cleaning up, we went to this dinner and this lady said, can I go with you? I'm like, no, you can't go with us. And she's like, Carol's like, you're never so mean. Let her come with. So she comes with us. We're sitting around this wooden table. Outside, there's like a cobblestone walkway, and we're right by the window. And this being comes to the window. Not good. And the eyes are all white, points its finger at me, and the whole table, big heavy table, comes pushing at me. And I went, what was that? And I looked at her and she goes, oh, spirit doesn't want you here.
What?
I said, why? And they said, well, mediums back in the day, they beheaded, you're just not wanted here. And I go, I have to believe the light puts out dark. Like, I'm not gonna fall for this. But it did scare me humanly. I wasn't gonna say that. But Carol had lost her son, and her son was standing between me and her, and he had like nunchucks out going like this. And I'm like, I'm protected.
But that's pretty intense, right? Like, because we all want to think, oh, we're part of the universe, we're one with source, and it's like we are these gods, right, walking around in these bodies. But yet there are some trickster energies out there, right, that kind of come into play, like your experience there.
Right, there are. And so you just have to be aware of those. But walking into a room, so the energy, right? I know you'll know this. Walking into a room, you could there could be a bunch of people and you could go like, oh my God, I like that person's personality. It just like, I want to be by that person. It feels so good. And that's the energy you're feeling. You're feeling that love, that compassion, that person's true. And so that's what you take when you walk into a room with no one there. Can you still feel that? Does it feel good? Do I want to be in this space? It's like when you're going to go look for a house. Do I like this house? Does it feel good? Or it's not feeling too good. Trust those feelings.
Sure. I've recently been experiencing like ringing in the ears.
Oh yeah.
And when I go to certain places, like I'll have ringing in my ears. I don't know what that is. But then when I go to certain places that I don't really resonate with, now I'm experiencing like clogging. Like I can't, like it's like
they're opening it, popping.
Well, they're popping and they're like, I feel like it's like when you get sick or something and you like you can like your ears get stuck. I don't know what it is. Like
plugged.
I just feel I get plugged up.
Like
I can't hear anything. And like, what is
so
that?
what's happening is, because that happens in my healings. So the ringing is they're fine tuning you to your highest frequency so that you'll be able to hear them. The plugging means that you're still plugged. You still have some opening that they need to open. So it's like clearing that up. And so just keep telling spirit, I'm ready. You can open that now. And then it will just pop. And then you'll start hearing them. So it's their way of saying, we're working with you. If you didn't have any of those feelings happening to you, then you may not know that they're working with you. So they're trying to give you a process, say, we're here, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. And then once it opens, then you'll have to start setting like boundaries. Okay, I only want loved ones, or I'll only talk to, people from the light and during these hours, right?
Will it be like thoughts, or will it be like audible?
Can be both.
It's interesting. Like I never thought about that. I just thought maybe I'm just resonating in a certain, like it happens a lot when I'm really in that I call it God state. Like really it's not a lot, right? Because I'm still building that muscle. I could feel the ringing. Like I can just immediately, like I can hear it in my radio right now. And then
it's the energy you're feeling.
Yeah.
So when you're in that God state, you're in an energy field, and you're kind of removed from your body, right? You're just being. And so when I'm in my healings, my ears will do that as well, because I'm getting fine-tuned to be in that space, to now hear, to be clearer. And so one, you're hearing the energy, that's the ringing, but two, they're also opening and fine-tuning you.
Wow, that's amazing. also thoughts, right? Like they come in as thoughts. But I feel like they're not my thoughts, right?
Right.
Like, is that family members, like you were just saying, right? Like, is that family members? Is it the higher self? Is that guides? Like,
You can
what are your
ask
thoughts?
them, you can ask. It could be any and all. But write those words down, because sometimes they don't make sense, right? Why did I hear this? If it's a memory of a loved one, like let's say a grandfather, and you used to sit on the porch with him and just look out in the pasture, then and that memory comes in, then you know it was him
Hmm.
because you thought of that memory of him.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's words that you have never heard before, write it down, because 9 out of 10 times that's going to come full circle and it's going to make sense. And that's coming from source. That's coming from your God.
Hmm. So you can tap into that original source,
Yeah.
like and like your experience, like you can receive messages from that original source, and it has its own consciousness. So I guess um I guess because of my programming and indoctrination, like of God, of being up on a cloud, like, a old man. So it's like, as I evolve as a conscious being and I can get into these God states where it's like, you're one with that. It's
Mm-hmm.
still kind of, it's still kind of like trippy to think that I can connect with a source that is, I feel like it's separate from me, but yet it's not separate from me. Like there's a, like when I'm separate from that, when I'm in my ego, there's a duality. And then when I'm connected with it, there's a non-duality, but that it can communicate with me is kind of trippy. I'm still new at this. Like I'm still like learning.
But you're tapping into it
Hmm.
and you're trusting it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. You're not ignoring it. You're not just saying, no, this doesn't exist. So the door is opening and you're hearing and you're feeling and you're seeing. And that's kind of how things build. And then it goes, the relationship gets stronger. And then now you're trusting everything you're hearing, and more is coming. Just like, hearing that I needed to get that hemorrhoid out. It's like, I heard that as loud as I'm talking to you.
Hmm.
I woke up hearing it. So you'll just end up having this relationship where you're trusting everything that comes through. You don't even second guess it anymore.
Is there an acceleration rate? Like, I mean, because I feel like I get anxious, not anxious, but excited about it. And it's like, all right, I'm ready for more, but am I ready for more? And is there like a point, you know what I mean? Like, is there a point where, all right, well, here we go. And, 0 to 100,
um,
or
I
is it
think
just they
that it,
give it to you as you grow?
yeah, I think it's just like how we are, right? It's just, it's, it's nothing that's, how do you want to say, when I'm talking to my God, I'm talking like I'm talking to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if I have concerns, rather than me holding on to the concerns, I give them. Here, these are my concerns. They're not serving me, but I have to walk through them. Help me walk through them, but you hold them for me. That way I'm not dwelling on them. I'm not going to become anxious over them. I'm just going to trust that no matter what happens, that's what was meant to be.
Hmm. I love that. I've loved this entire conversation, Deborah. This has been, I'm so happy we finally got this on the calendar. I'm finally able to have a conversation with you, Deborah. How can people connect with you? Where can they go?
It's best to go to my website at www.goldenmiracles, that's with an S.com.
Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been beautiful.
Oh, no, thank you, Trey. Like, I feel like I made a new friend. When I'm out in Baltimore, I'll look you up.
Absolutely.